Let's go back to 1997, to a time when the first graphics accelerators were just appearing and the spaces in first-person shooter games were filled with 2D textures. During this period, the cult game Redneck Rampage was released. It did not achieve its cult status through quality but through its twisted presentation. You embody Leonard, a somewhat dim-witted redneck who shoots first and thinks later. Alongside your foolish brother Bubba, you must save your beloved pet pig and eventually the whole world. As I mentioned, the game is neither particularly interesting nor creative. The graphics were outdated even at release, with the build engine already surpassed by the excellent Quake engine. Nevertheless, several interesting games were made on this engine, such as the brilliant Blood and Shadow Warrior. However, in terms of level design and mission content, Redneck Rampage doesn't come close to these games. Let's start with the worst part of the game, its content. There are 15 missions divided into 2 episodes. Forget about trying the second episode right away, you won't stand a chance, as the campaigns are sequential and you carry over all the equipment from the first campaign. Trust me, you'll need it because right at the beginning, you'll face 2 enemies you can't take down with a weak pistol. You start the first mission in a rather nice village with a murderous car, a silo, a farm, a bar, and village houses. Everything looks fine until you realize that many doors are locked and you need to find keys. You wander through the maze of corridors to different buildings only to discover that this path leads nowhere. You pull your hair out, try shooting at everything, and nothing happens. Then it happens. You throw dynamite at the silo, and the unbelievable becomes reality. A hole appears in the silo, and you can pass through. Needless to say, if you try this anywhere else, no destruction occurs. So, you proceed in search until you find a tiny key that opens the first door. From there, progress is straightforward. The problem is that the key is so small and incredibly easy to overlook, which you will surely experience in many missions as you wander helplessly until you stumble upon a key. But this might not be the worst part. The missions contain many secrets, a classic of that era, and nothing can be blamed for this. However, it often involves finding hidden levers or buttons that open a window you can crawl through. This concept screams sadomasochism. It's a classic concept of the time, and I must admit that towards the end of the game, once I accepted its rules, I managed to find my way quite well. But at the beginning, it's a struggle. Have you played Dark Souls and think you're a good gamer? Try Redneck Rampage and see how patient you are. To make matters worse, after overcoming all previous obstacles, you're faced with your dumb brother at the end. But what do you do with him? You try using the use button on him, but to no avail. You walk around, hoping there's another way, but no, this is the end. So, you pull out your shotgun and angrily shoot your brother. Well, you can do that, but it's also your end. I won't keep you in suspense, you need to pull out a crowbar and hit your brother hard. Surprisingly, this doesn't end you but the mission. And as I said, there are 14 more often nerve-wracking missions ahead. So why play the game at all? 2 reasons come to mind. The first is the diverse and relatively well-executed environments, but mostly the twisted humor. Besides the backward village, you'll visit a lumber mill, disgusting sewers, a slaughterhouse, a city where you rob a bank and then escape from jail, ruins, and even a grand, albeit slightly spooky, palace. The mission content is fairly monotonous, walking, shooting, and trying to reach the mission's end, which is either finding Bubba or reaching a designated endpoint. In the missions, you're constantly looking for keys, levers, and buttons that open the way forward. Unfortunately, there's not much ingenuity. And the humor? It's pretty lowbrow and definitely not for everyone. If you enjoy shouting yaha, occasionally farting, watching your brother grab his crotch while waving at you, and making funny remarks a la Duke Nukem, then you might find it amusing. Your enemies are also quite funny. Initially, you encounter bald gunmen, but the fat rednecks with shotguns are more troublesome. Eventually, you meet annoying mutated monkeys and the first episode's final boss, aptly named Assface. The game isn't very difficult in terms of enemies, but the sewers, for example, involve endless wandering and searching for the way out. The second episode is different. Besides the basic enemies, you'll face a giant alien with a crystalline cannon that can kill you in a few shots. Luckily, he's slow, and unless you meet him in narrow corridors, he's manageable. A much worse enemy is Vixen. Remember Hey Dude, Where's My Car? It's something similar, a beautiful alien dominatrix with a flamethrower and deadly breast-mounted machine guns. She's fast and can teleport, preferably behind your back. The last enemy is the sheriff, with a weak pistol but immense firepower, capable of quickly taking you down. I only encountered him twice on medium difficulty. And the final boss? Queen Vixen, who will strut before you but, being a much tougher Vixen, will give you quite a challenge. And the weapons? There are typically 10, each represented by a number. The weapons are varied, and you'll end up using almost all of them, as ammo for the best ones is scarce. So, even at the end, you'll often be running around with the basic shotgun. At the game's start, you have only a crowbar and a very weak pistol. Soon, you'll find a shotgun, which will accompany you for much of the game, as besides the nearly useless dynamite, you won't get another weapon for a while. Eventually, you'll acquire a dynamite crossbow, which is great, as well as an AK-47. The problem is a severe ammo shortage. I can't recall another game where I used a submachine gun so little. In the second half of the game, you'll find more exotic weapons. The gear launcher is very powerful but also very dangerous. If you miss the enemy, the gear often ricochets and kills you due to its devastating impact. Exotic weapons include a crystalline weapon from the Fat Alien and a special submachine gun shaped like Vixen's breasts. Quite a kinky touch. There's also a notable aiming bug. The game provides weak auto-aim, which isn't bad. Unfortunately, there's a critical error when an enemy is on a moving platform, like a minecart. It's nearly impossible to hit such enemies with flying projectiles like dynamite or gears. To conclude, Redneck Rampage was a game of my youth that I could never finish. Only in my later years did I manage to overcome its hardships, but I must say the game lost much of its shine and was more of a chore than fun. Usually, I invite you to play a game, and this time, I won't make an exception. Play it. If you survive with your sanity intact, without pulling out your hair, and find your way to the end, you'll be true champions. Pros. Interesting environments. So cheesy it's funny. Varied weapons. Cons. Stupid mission content. Outdated graphics, even for its time. Fatal aiming bug. We've endured the suffering of Redneck Rampage, so what's next? I promised we were at the end of the series, but if there's strength and time, I'd love to show you possibly the most entertaining arcade flight simulator, Crimson Skies, where you'll step into the shoes of a sky pirate. So bye, and see you possibly next time.